here, and Daniel back with another really fun episode of Just Lux It. And this week we're going to give you guys an introduction to algae.
Correct.
And actually, I'll just start by telling a funny story that I don't know how many of you guys out there work at a company where you would just walk in the basement for your cup of coffee and happen upon, like, crazy Daniel Lux science lab. But this algae is precious to us, and it lives here in our basement. And today we're going to introduce you guys to it.
Yeah. So actually what we have here is a living culture of algae. It is alive. It is called spirulina. And some of you health freaks might actually know it as one of these superfoods because it's super rich in proteins and omega-3, omega-6.
So wait a minute. So they eat it. So you can eat this algae.
You can
eat
this algae.
Superfood. Okay.
It's a superfood. But it is rather frickly. It's difficult to grow.
Yeah.
So what I did was I combined IoT with growing the algae.
And let me just back up a second. Why do we have algae in our basement at Lux It?
Yeah. So I'm very interested in microalgae. I believe that microalgae will play a very big role in the future, both towards solving the climate change problems, but also towards solving fuel problems, for example. I mean, you can grow them, they grow exponentially if you have the perfect conditions. And there will be a food shortage, and algae can provide a lot of food since they grow exponentially.
So what is it specifically about algae that links it to potentially being a climate change solution?
Yeah, so algae are plants.
Mm-hmm.
Plants do photosynthesis, not all, but some. And photosynthesis means if you give it nutrients, if you give it sunlight, and if you give it CO2, it will absorb the CO2, it will grow, and thereby it will capture CO2, and it will release oxygen, so increase the oxygen level in our atmosphere.
And if I remember correctly, there was something that I read that algae is a little special because I think a lot of people focus on trees, save the trees, plant trees, which is great, which is important, but algae is a little special in this area. And why is that?
Why is that? So what I'm focusing on here is single-celled algae. And single-celled algae are, of course, only one cell, but that also means it doesn't take 40 years to grow. Actually, they split and grow like that. Mm-hmm. So they're very fast growing. Also, trees need land mass, which takes away the land mass from maybe agricultural purposes. The algae, they can grow in water. These ones, they are saline, but you have other algae which can grow in fresh water, but also salt water, mm-hmm. Depending on the type. And they grow exponentially, so they double. The fastest ones, they double every 12 hours.
Okay. Yeah, that's really fast.
Yeah. Should we disassemble this and show you?
Listen, I'm dying to disassemble this because it's been assembled since we've moved into this building, and I'm really dying to see what is under this.
You can see I killed some algae here. This is how they look when they are not feeling so good, even though I think they probably survive.
So you could like reboot it.
Yeah, they're really actually, to completely kill them is hard.
Okay. What's this?
This is water where I remove the chlorine gas. So what you do is you take tap water, you let it stand, and you let actually vent some air through it. Mm-hmm. It will evaporate the chlorine because chlorine kills algae.
So wait, is there chlorine in all tap water?
Not in Denmark, but in many countries you would have chlorine in the tap water, and this is to make the drinking water safe.
Okay.
Should we disassemble
it? Yes,
it?
Please.
Yes, please.
Wait, let me do it. How do I do it?
So, first of all, why do I have this wrapped around?
Yes.
It's because these algae like it hot. Why do I have this on top? Look. Actually, this is so that the water inside of the algae doesn't evaporate too fast.
Okay.
Because I've made it nice and cozy and warm for these algae.
So it's
about
heated.
32 degrees. And since it's warmer than the ambient temperature, otherwise the water would evaporate and I would have to replenish the water all the time. Thank you, Heather. So this is just my anti-evaporation shield for the heated water around my algae. Oh my god, they're beautiful.
So what is beautiful algae? Like just deep green?
Yes, deep green means actually it's a healthy culture of algae. You can see up here, they went up here because it bubbles.
And it's sticking to the glass.
And it's sticking to the glass. So there's just warm water here, 32 degrees. There is a heating element here just from a fish tank, basically, which you can adjust to a temperature. And then we have the algae in here. These algae...
What's up with the lights?
Oh yeah, algae need a lot of light. So this is actually an LED light which can help you grow the algae when it's dark.
Is red light better for growth? Or why is it red and not white? Or
there are certain wavelengths of light which are better,
Yep.
which they can absorb, and others they don't absorb.
What makes a wavelength better for absorption?
Well, different algae will have different type of wavelengths they absorb.
Okay.
Green plants often have this reddish type. So if you only focus on the light that they actually can absorb, then they will obviously use more of the energy you put in. We don't want to waste energy. Then we have a tube here going inside, and this is because they need CO2. So basically I'm pumping the ambient air in there, which is at 420 or something, or maybe now in this room it's probably 600 ppm. So they get CO2 in, and that will press the oxygen out.
So this is literally taking the CO2 just out of our atmosphere within the basement here?
Yes, it is.
Wow, okay.
Very slowly, very slowly. What you can see is actually it's rather dark green. That means they are actually quite healthy and already ready to be harvested.
How do you harvest algae?
Yeah, so an easy way to harvest them is with an airlift pump.
What is that?
An airlift pump is very simple, a very simple device. You have a tube which is submerged under the water on the one end and in the air on the other hand. And then it's closed on the one end a bit, but the water can still go in. And then you apply pressured air in the bottom underneath the water. That means you get a lot of bubbles in the water, and bubbles means you expand the water, the volume of the water, and thereby you pump it out.
Okay.
Then you let the other end, the open end in the air, you have a filter, like for example a coffee filter would do. And then the algae would remain in the coffee filter and the water would go back down. So you can both put CO2 and also circulate the algae. The other reason for this is to circulate the algae. So the strong ones don't only stay on top, but they are circulated.
Then what? So now we've got a coffee filter full of algae.
Yeah, we
What's
have
the
another
next
thing in here. What is this, Heather?
That's a filter.
No. It's a pH sensor.
That's a pH sensor.
What does the pH measure?
pH. Acidity in water.
Correct. It measures acidity.
In something.
Yes, because these algae, they like a very high basic level of acidity, around 8.5 to 9. So if you make it too low, they will not grow, they will probably die. If you make it too high, you also kill them. So you want to regulate the acidity. Actually, when they grow, the acidity changes. So they make it according to what they like. Then what you do is you use natron, I don't know what's baking soda basically.
Yep.
That's a buffered
like a base
chemical.
Like a basic. So
Yeah,
this is
exactly.
taking the acidity level down.
Yeah, or the pH level up. Yeah. So that is good to control the pH level of the algae. And then you have, this is the food.
So you're feeding your live precious algae.
Yes.
Algae.
They need food, and this is something ready-made for spirulina. I don't know if you can read it, but you can buy this spirulina fertilizer basically. And
how often do you feed it?
Oh, not that often. Actually, I will need to either harvest it or do something about it. Otherwise, it will kill itself. You will get bacteria in there.
How long will it last until you need to could it last a few more weeks like this?
Yeah, it would last. It will not die. I mean, I let them almost die, and I was surprised how quickly they resurfaced.
So you mentioned that you were mixing IoT with algae. So
Correct.
How are you doing this? What's IoT about it? What's smart about this?
So the pH sensor is actually connected to a porcupine. So it's connected to a porcupine, which is one of our rapid prototyping devices. And this is hooked into the pH sensor. I also have a CO2 sensor in here because I want to see if I leave them alone, if actually the CO2 is, if something is happening. And then I have connected a relay here, which can switch the light on and off basically. And so I can collect data and see, I mean, we could do more stuff. We could see like how see-through is it, how ready is it to be harvested. We could make an automatic control for the airlift pump and then harvest it automatically. So, I mean, a lot of potential. And then, there's the growth of an algae is slow, then it goes exponential, and then it stalls. So it goes slow again. We would like to keep it on this exponential fast growth, because that is when it absorbs the maximum CO2. When it becomes like this, there's almost no growth anymore, because there's not enough light, there's not enough nutrients coming in.
Okay, that makes sense.
So they stall.
So if it's growing, it's eating CO2.
Yes.
That makes sense. Okay.
Exactly. And if it's not, then it doesn't. Just like trees without fertilizer, if there's nothing left in the earth, they hang out, they stay the same, they don't grow. Like your plants at home.
Yeah.
If the pot is too small, they will stop growing.
Yeah.
Give them more nutrients, they will grow. So it's very simple.
So you see algae as a really good potential solution to climate change and to the problem that is CO2 around us.
And that's part of my book, which is probably coming later this year.
Which is exciting. Yeah, that's an interesting take at it, I think.
About algae, about how CO2 impacts our body, and not so much about the climate change. I think there's enough about that, but the direct impact of CO2 on our body and how maybe algae can be one part of the solution. Yeah. There will be many solutions.
Yeah, that's interesting because I do think a lot of people are talking about climate change, but I don't see as much about the impact on our bodies and what it's doing to us internally.
No, it's kind of a bit a forgotten discussion maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Well,
and tomorrow it's my birthday.
Yeah, and don't forget to wish Daniel a happy birthday tomorrow. A big day for you. We won't say what birthday it is.
Yeah, they can see.
Yeah, and I also think maybe some cool episodes to come with some other things that we'll do with the algae. Yeah.
Sure as hell.
Cool.
Super.
Well, thanks for explaining.
Thank you for today, and bye-bye.
Bye. Did you stop it?